Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining. My name is Jackson Alatash, and today in Elite Dangerous, we're going to take a look at the process of going out and exploring. One might assume that exploring is a fairly simple adventure, and by far and large, that individual would be absolutely correct. However, before you go off blasting off into the deep black, it's a good idea to take some particular equipment with you. So the ship we're sitting in today is a Diamondback Explorer. It is what constitutes what I would believe to be pretty much the starter ship as far as exploration adventures are concerned. The reason being is because it gets you a decent range with reasonable outfitting, and comes in at I want to say around the 12 million credit mark. Could be incorrect. I'll go ahead and post a Coriolis link to the video description below, that you can have a look for yourself and see what it would actually cost. Probably should have done my homework, but I didn't. Anyhow, take a look at the actual ship itself. You can see the lovely Diamondback Explorer. We'll go ahead and we'll take a look at the core modules. So the core modules here, pretty much everything is a D or Delta rated. The reason being is because they weigh less than their heavier brothers do. The notable difference being the 5A frame shift drive, because getting more range is more better, especially when you're going out blasting around the cosmos. Looking over here at the optional internal stuff, you can see we have a fuel scoop, the largest fuel scoop that we could fit on it. The reason being is because you're going to be doing a lot of scooping of fuel once you get outside the bubble. There are no gas stations if there are no humans around, and most of the galaxy doesn't have anybody around in it that wants to sell you fuel. So having a fuel scoop is a good idea. The large fuel scoop just minimizes the amount of time you need to spend. Next one down here, I realize it's a one-size module packed into a 4-slot, but yeah, compromises were made. There's the detailed surface scanner. What this permits you to do is it lets you get a nice up-close look at planets and scan them to discover their mineral types, etc. The idea being either A, to land on them, go exploring, driving around, gathering materials for Jumponium or FSD boosts, as the more correct name would state. Also, it increases the amount of money that you get for each one of these discoveries. In my case, I also tend to roll with the shield generator. The reason being is because on some of these little planets, you never know. They could be 3Gs and you could be tired and you could forget to take a look at that on your HUD, and the next thing you know, you've made a nice little crater on the top of it, which crashing and blowing up tends to end your exploration missions fairly early. Then the other piece of what I would consider required equipment is the Advanced Discovery Scanner. The reason for this is fairly straightforward. Basically, you have the different types of Discovery Scanners. You can see here with the basic Discovery Scanner, this is the one which comes with every ship you buy. Your active range here is only 500 light seconds, which means when you jump into a system and you honk, you're only going to be reaching out 500 light seconds. The intermediate bumps that up to 1,000, which is okay, but it's still not going to catch anything aside from a fairly small system. The advanced, though, has an infinite range. If it's a stellar body, it will be discovered by this bad boy. Works out fairly well, especially for gathering those huge systems. And then down here we have our SRV, which I would consider to be mandatory just because I like to go driving around on planet surfaces. If you don't, then no need to equip it. Now, it is worth noting that I do roll around on the exploration ship with no weapons because there's not many people to attack you outside the bubble, at least at this point in time. We'll see how the story unfolds with the ultimate super space bad guys, but it generally saves me a bit of weight and helps me keep up the jump distance of my ship. Alright, so once you have those things all nicely in place, the next thing to do is to find somewhere to go. And this is actually a fairly simple adventure. We'll jump into the galaxy map and just point it out. Alright, so as you can see here, I have the power play map up. And this gives you a general notion of where exactly the bubble is, the 1,000 light year grip of humanity, so to speak. Now granted, it does extend outside of this, and in some cases there are some areas that are located off in the distance, which have humans at them. However, there's not many of them. So generally, you just want to pick a direction, so to speak. And let's go over here and get a more traditional view of the map. Alright, so let's head up here to Mel, and let's go find just something random. So this guy right here, Mel, is 302 light years away. That's not a long drive at all. So you can go out looking around, and basically you just want to find somewhere that you'd like to go to, or if nothing else, just set off more or less at random. So now while you're here, another fairly straightforward way to figure out which planets have humans and which don't is to set the maximum population all the way down to nothing. So all the systems that are showing up here are systems that don't have any people at them. So if you come in here, you'll notice that there are some of them that just simply don't necessarily show up. So those are all of the systems that have a population stuck in them. So can't select them even though you can see the dots there. Anyhow, we'll go zooming back up here off of the ones that we can select, indicating that there's nobody living there, and we'll just grab one at random. Let's go out to lovely EP59177. All right. Now, as with exploration, as does with most things traveling a long distance, it's a good idea to take a look at your route in terms of, can I scoop the stars on the way? Because we're so close to home in this case, it's not necessarily as big of a deal. If you do get stuck, there are always fuel rats hanging around. However, it's a good idea to have a look at your situation just based off of the line itself. As you can see from the beginning, or right down there at the bottom, up to HIP 59177. The line is completely solid. That means we can do it all on one tank of fuel. Now, if we should happen to go up here, and we should select this bad boy, now you will see that the line becomes a dotted line. And the dotted line runs out at a system, let's see this, Gliese 460. All right, so we'll go ahead and there we go. Go ahead and set that back to normal just because I forget to later and then it won't be great. So in this case, there is a population here, which means that it's likely that there is a station that you could gain fuel from. If not, it's a good idea to also take a look at the star class. And the star class in this case is an F. It is a white star. Easy acronym to remember, KGB foam. If it is one of those letters, then it will tell you, then it will let you pull fuel from it. One other way that you can do this is to highlight turn on display of the first 7 systems, 7 star types in here, and those are all your scoopable or main sequence stars, however you want to put it. All right, so I forgot where we're going to go initially, but we'll just pick this one because, why not? All right, we can get there on one tank of fuel, and then we'll go ahead and I'll show off some scooping, and off we will go. So the idea of exploration is pretty much just going out around the galaxy and having a peek to see what's out there. There's some fairly exotic system types, fairly exotic star types, and anyone that's an armchair astronomer or just generally enjoys the structure of the galaxy, so to speak, it can be well served by going out and banging around. It's also worth noting that you can make yourself a bit of cash. Now, granted, it is not an extremely profitable situation to be in. However, if it's something that you enjoy, at least you're getting paid to do it. All right, so we pull out of our nice little human system, and we're going to go ahead and start jumping here once we get out of mass lock. So I'm going to go ahead and jump forward to the point at which we arrive in the destination system, and then we'll discuss fuel scooping and actually going exploring. Alright, welcome back. We are on our last leg into our target system, which we are going to then explore and then return for profit. Flying along through this fantastic new Guardians expansion witch space tunnel. Good stuff all around. As you can see in the lower right hand corner, we've consumed some fuel on this voyage. So the first order of business, while we get the rest of it sorted, is to go ahead and drive into the sun here a little ways and grab ourselves some more fuel. So if you haven't fuel scooped before, it can be a little harrowing diving into an enormous ball of fire. However, it's not all that difficult. You just simply move down towards the star until you reach your maximum fuel scooping rate, and then just kind of hang out till you either get hot or finish fuel scooping, one or the other. In this case, we'll probably end up getting a little on the toasty side before we end up pulling out of here. So yeah, we'll go ahead and speed up a little, move away from it some. Won't help a whole ton. Alright, that's good enough for now. So we'll go ahead and pull away from the star, which you, strictly speaking, don't have to do. The next thing we're going to do is the ubiquitous honk. Figure out everything that's in the system. Alright, so there are 8 new astronomical objects within this system. Easiest way to find them is to go over here and take a look at the system map. Now, I probably should have shown this to you beforehand, but everything that is not within 33 light seconds of the ship wouldn't have shown up. So, initially, on looking at the system map, the only thing you would have seen is this nice ball of fire here in the middle. You wouldn't have seen all these other little planets, or planetoids, or whatever you want to call them. Probably just straight up planets. Anyhow, we'll just go ahead and zoom in on one of them, and if you'll notice, we can't actually get any closer than this. It's kind of represented as a ball. So what we're going to do is we're going to start going through the astronomical bodies and have a look at them. So the first one we're going to have a look at and scan is going to be that ball of fire that we left so far behind. As you're remembering to do things in order is not exactly the suit of this explorer, or strong suit of this explorer. Anyhow, I went ahead and targeted it, and as you can see, the lower left-hand corner, we are scanning this bad boy. And we're scanning, and there we go. All right, so you can see from the HUD notification that, yeah, now we can see all the available materials, which with a star, probably don't want to go driving right up on it to find out what those are. So we'll go over to the contacts pane on the left and lock the next unexplored thing. And as you can see, we cannot scan it from here. Basically, the distance at which the detailed surface scanner functions is directly proportional to the size of the object as well as the distance you are from it. So, whereas you can scan a star, which is incredibly heavy, incredibly large from a good ways away, scanning other orbital bodies you can't quite do from as far away. So in this case, we'll just go ahead and we'll drive up on it until the scanner starts going, and then we'll go ahead and pull ourselves to a stop. Some folks find this to be an extremely boring thing to do. Let's see. Okay, or we'll just go flying by it. Anyhow, some people find this to be an extremely boring thing to do. Generally, I find it to be somewhat of a peaceful adventure. Just kind of go out, bang around a solar system for a little while, get back home, etc. That and it's always interesting to discover something that you haven't discovered before. And if you go out far enough, you can discover something that someone else hasn't discovered before either. If I recall correctly, the latest statistics stated that there were only approximately 3% of the systems within the Milky Way that have been explored by humans since the game's launch, which is still quite a few, but that means that there are no shortage of systems that are left to go have a look at. Alright, so the object we have targeted is going to be the first planet in this system. So, yes, as you can see, we still can't zoom in on it to get a surface map, but then it is not a landable body. So we can take a look at the fact that it has no volcanism. Surface pressure is 109 atmospheres, which is that's quite something. But yeah, it gives you more detail about this as well as more money when you sell this exploration data. So next up, we'll take a look at its orbital body here, its moon, if you will. And if we zoom in on it, all we get is this just cheeky little wireframe hanging out here. It doesn't really tell us much about the composition of that planet. Over the left-hand pane, it also doesn't tell us much. All it gives us is the mass listed in a portion of Earth's mass, its radius, how fast it goes around its principal body there, and the semi-major axis of its orbit. So we'll go ahead and we'll target it. And we can scan it from here as well. Alrighty. And there we go. It's been analyzed, and now we can have a look at it. So, whereas before we had ourselves a nice little cheeky wireframe, when we zoom in this time, we actually get a map of the planet's surface. So you can see that it is, in fact, an icy body. If you look over on the left-hand side, I believe that I'm right there. Yep, rocky ice world. So pretty nifty. It gives you all the details about it, including whether or not it's tidally locked. Gives you the eccentricity, inclination, age of periapsis, etc., as well as the planetary materials. So if you happen to be out in the middle of nowhere, you're looking for something particularly special, scanning these orbital bodies is a good way to find that item which is particularly special. So then, keeping along with the theme here, we'll just go ahead and we will lock up the next one of the stellar bodies here. And we'll go have a drive over towards it and scan it, so on and so forth. As I was saying, a lot of folks can view exploration to be a rather boring adventure. In my case, I do it when I'm just kind of tired of banging away at other things in Elite. Go take a 2 or 3 year, 5,000 light year round trip, just for no other reason than to just kind of see what's out there. You can run across some really fantastic systems when you do, like, say, something that has 3 stars jammed up around each other, otherwise known as a trinary system or a trinary star. Not exactly sure what the nomenclature is, but it's friggin' cool. The only problem is that in jumping into some of those, you can run into this the fact that they're very hot, and when you have several of them in a very small space with your ship in the middle of them, it can get a little bit toasty. Now, folks that are a little more familiar with exploring, they're just kind of watching this video because, why not? It's cool. Those folks will point out that I do not have a maintenance unit aboard this ship, which is one of the biggest differences or downsides, if you will, to using the Diamondback Explorer, is that you don't have an auto field maintenance unit with you, or AFMU. What that does not allow you to do is to repair things on your ship, repair your modules. Now, granted, if something gets banged up enough, you can go ahead and reboot it. However, that's still not going to necessarily fix the thing to a significantly large extent. It is one of the weaknesses. However, an Asp Explorer costs a lot more than my little Diamondback does. So for now, I'll just stick with the Diamondback. So the Asp Explorer is currently configured for running passenger missions. Video on that coming up shortly. I was hoping once they get a bug knocked out of them, but that doesn't seem to be a bug that is going to be going away anytime in the excessively near future, unless they just kind of ninja past it. I haven't been patch it, and I haven't been paying attention, which is also a possibility. All right, so we get this guy scanned. The one thing that I do not know is if scanning goes faster if you're closer. Honestly, I don't think so. I think it has to do with the size, mass, surface area, volume, what have you, of the stellar body you're pointing at. And now if we go back into the system map, now the second planet here, we can see more information about him. Once we get no volcanism, extremely high surface pressure. That's a little on the ridiculous side. It's also somewhat, I don't know if that's cool or warm. 261 Kelvin. Yeah, kind of an exciting adventure there. And we see that there is another ice world out here. And as usual, we can see the various items that make up this ice world over there in the lower bottom left corner of the screen. Now, what you would do if you're out exploring is generally you'll want to go and try and find yourself Earth types, or if anything appears interesting, just go check it out. In this case, there doesn't appear to be much else out there that's necessarily tremendously interesting. So all of these guys, this guy's 1.5 Earth masses, might be worth having a look at. Let's ride out there and have a look-see right quick. In a lot of systems, you run across a lot of stuff which is fairly boring. What is kind of nifty to find out there are the Earth-type planets. So when you scan them, they give you a whole stack of change when you get back to the station. And some people just kind of go out of their way to find them. Other folks have the other proclivities, like going out and finding themselves new and as of yet unexplored neutron stars. In my case, I just go out and anything that looks interesting, I'll generally drive over to it and have a peek. It doesn't take that long to get across the system because you're generally not very deep within the gravity wells of any of the stellar bodies within said system. And then when you get aboard, you just kind of pick your route and jump and off you go. It'll only take us a second here to crawl up on this guy. Now, as far as exploration and the amount of money that it makes, I mentioned that it can make money, but it's not a great money maker. Say you should go out and about around the cosmos and decide you're going to go visit Jacques, and then you're going to swing by Sagittarius A star, and then you're going to roll back home. You can expect, if you spend quite a few hours of exploring, to pull home, I would say, anywhere from 120 to 140 million credits, which is not a tremendous amount of money. However, it's also kind of one of those trade-off things. If you want to go exploring, at least you can monetize it. You will probably not get rich exploring, but it's worth having a gander at anyway, in my opinion. There's been a lot of griping and complaining on Reddit, the forums elsewhere, but then again, that's not something that is in any way unheard of with any game that's out there. There will always be a vocal minority of individuals who just don't seem to want to enjoy anything but want to complain a whole lot about whatever it is they don't enjoy that moment. So with that in mind, they may be making changes to exploring to up the profitability. Then again, it might just simply be one of those things that will never be the most profitable in the game, which, quite frankly, given the way that the game is balanced currently, I think that's a much more likely outcome. Frontier doesn't seem to be, too pandering, so to speak, to folks that just want to go out and be in an endgame ship within a couple of days. But there always exists a method. It's just, I guess, not quite as easy now. Anyhow, back on the topic before I ramble off at the chops here. So, looking at this guy, even though he's a bit bigger than Earth, he's still pretty boring in my opinion. Although, aside from, primary difference from the other two planets is that there is some volcanism, carbon dioxide geysers, and it is 0.28 atmospheres. So gone from several thousand atmospheres to 0.28. Who knew? Alright, so when you were done exploring around the galaxy, the next thing to do is to set yourself a course for home. So in my case, I'm going to set myself a course for home 2.0, located here in sunny G203 Tech 47. We'll go ahead and plot a route there, and we're going to run out of gas along the way. Not too worried about it. One of the nice features that came to us with the release of Guardians is that when you decide you're going to jump to another star, the upper right-hand corner tells you what star type you're coming in on. So in this case, I know that I'm coming in on top of an M-class star. Great for topping off the old tank set and moving along my way. So off we go, and I will join you fine folks again. Ooh, probably need to put the gas on here. There we go. Anyhow, as I was saying, once again, we'll use the magic of editing to jump right to where we're going. Be right back. Alright, and just like that, we are back home. If only exploration actually worked that quickly, I think everybody would be out of a job. Alright, so let's go ahead and dock up at Cabana Market here. Cabana Market being the site of Home 2.0. As it ends up, I decided to move away from Kermain to a smaller system with less populace in it. The reason being is because one of the requested videos on the channel here is one about the background simulation, major factions, minor factions, etc. So the idea is to get to a system where it's a little less populous, there's less folks running around doing their thing in it, and hopefully that can be fairly handy in terms of giving me the ability to influence something in a way that I understand. So anyhow, we'll just roll into Cabana Market here, find landing pad number 27 and set down on it. There we go. Alright, so after a long trip out into the black, you've returned home. Next thing is, well, I would kind of like to sell the things that I managed to discover. So, what you do is you just arrive at your market, you go down to Universal Cartographics on the left, you pull that up, and then you can take a look at what all you can sell. So in the case of a couple of these, they're fairly close. The one rule of cartographic data is that you cannot sell something within 20 light years of where you learned it at. So in this case, because 44 Chi Draconis is within 20 light years, as you can see down there at the lower right-hand portion of the panel, we cannot sell that information here. However, all the other fun stuff we certainly can sell the information at. And let's have a look-see here. So out here in Mel, we went ahead and made some detailed service scans of four of the stellar bodies. That made us about 14 grand. As you can see, let me grab a pen here and highlight some stuff. As you can see on the right, it tells you exactly what it's selling. So we're just basically selling knowledge of these three orbital bodies. And we're selling the detailed surface scans of these other four detailed bodies. Now in this case, ice planets and other, I don't know, for lack of a better term, junky planets are not worth a whole heck of a lot. So in this case, you get about 14 grand for that system. Another example of this would be, an example of the difference in cost would be something like along the lines of this one, where we're not selling any detailed surface scans, we're just selling the knowledge that there is something out there in the black, and here is the name that has been given procedurally. So as you can see there, we get 850, 400 to 800, 400 for the stars and 800 for the other fine things. Whereas over here, the ones that we actually took the time to scan, we made at the least 900. Those were for the two moons. And on the other side, 6,400 for the first one and 1,092 for the second one. And then we also have another one down there for 1,157. So it's not the most glamorous thing, but it was in fact some fairly easy money. I went ahead and honked all the way there and honked all the way back. Probably took most of the same route, but any which way, we're good to go on that front. So now we can sell it and bask in the warm glow and radiance of 41,000 credits without having to risk life and limb to get them. I think that's where we're going to go ahead and end the video. And one last thing before we do that, some sharp-eyed viewers will note that when I arrived at my system out there to demonstrate exploration, I was low on fuel, but getting home I have a little bit more. Reason being is that when I go past a main sequence star, if there's any room in the tank, I'll generally fly through the corona and basically circle around the thing, aligning with the next jump point while scanning. And I find that I can make 17, 18, 20 jumps before I actually have to stop jumping at that rate to get myself some fuel. So it just kind of, in my mind, makes things more efficient, and if not, it makes them somewhat more fun. Anyhow, that's where we're going to end the video for now. If I've missed anything, please let me know in the comments section. Also, if you'd like to see anything in any of these upcoming guide videos, please let me know. And as always, if you've enjoyed the video, please feel free to click that like button, and I'll catch you next time.